Is it a conflict of interest for me to do what I'm about to do? I'm going to have a disclosure in a minute for those who don't already know. Whatever. Screw it. Identiteaze, the original short film that is available on Nebula, made by Jessie Gender. So, for those who don't know, Jessie is a friend of mine. We do a podcast together. I talk to her literally every week, and I consider her to be quite a good friend. I have been aware of this project for a while. Actually, I knew about it even before Nebula was involved, actually, for a bit. Before that, I looked at the script. I gave some feedback on that. This was a while back now at this point. I actually technically am in this. I have a very small part in it. I don't think this counts as a spoiler. My part is vocal only. I was not on set. I wasn't at the filming for this. But I am technically in the film. But I'm going to review it anyway because I want to. And also because I fully expect Jessie to review my novel when I finally finish editing the audiobook. I'm working. It takes a long time, and I have a lot of crap that I do on a regular basis. Hopefully, now that new Doctor Who episodes are done for a little bit, I can catch up on that. We'll see. We'll see. Regardless, so this is a sort of cyberverse sci-fi thriller short film. It's about 41 minutes long, and that is counting credits. But the thing is, there's stuff you should stick around through after the credits, so we're gonna count the whole thing. Plus, there's a cool song during the credits, so stick around anyways. I am going to do everything I can to avoid talking spoilers on this. So if you haven't seen it yet, either because you haven't gotten around to it or because you don't have Nebula as a subscription. Reminder, because people ask me intermittently on here, no, I'm not on Nebula. No, I can't just get in touch with them to try and get on Nebula. That's not how any of that works. That's not their business model. But some people end up being surprised that I'm not on there. I'm not. I'd be more than willing to talk to them if they ever want to get in touch, but and no, that's not a subtle thing. I'm not trying to passive aggressive my way through the door. It's just a point of clarification because it comes up in comments mostly on the main channel. People are like, have you tried getting on Nebula? I'm like, I know enough about Nebula to know that's not how that works. But anyways, so this isn't a plug and this isn't sponsored. Jessie, however, is my friend. So there's your disclosures. So this starts from a very simple setup. You have two people, a man and a woman, who just appear in a room. An empty, blank, white room. And they do not remember where they came from, who they are, or how they got there. Go. So I'm a sucker for single location stories. I like them in bottle episodes and TV shows. I like them in movies, whether it's something like the episode Midnight from Doctor Who, whether it's a movie like Cube or Exam. I like stuff like that. So that's already kind of a bit of a hook for me. I'm kind of a sucker for that, especially if you can do it well, which for the most part this is. I will have a couple of small things again. It'll be as spoiler-free as I can keep it. But, I'm me. I think people will be surprised if I didn't have anything to be like, well, there is this. Then people would be like, Vera, you okay? It's rare for me not to have at least a little bit of something to say. Okay. Anyways, the other major influence in terms of films are your sort of cyberpunk-ish kind of stuff. Not cyberpunk in the Blade Runner sense of everything's dressed in neon and stuff like that. More cyberpunk in the Hackers, the Matrix, that sort of sense. Within the Johnny Mnemonic and within the digital world kind of a thing. So it's more taking cues from that end of cyberpunk as opposed to your Blade Runner franchises or your Cyberpunk 2077s and so on and stuff like that. So this has a small cast. It's effectively a single location. There's a couple of different locations technically, but I mean, if you're paying attention, you'll realize it's the same set redressed. That's not even a cheat. That's actually like part of how this works. Like, yeah, no, that is how this would work. So you can break this into, I would say, 3 primary segments. There's the initial segment with our 2 primary characters sort of meeting and just trying to figure out what's going on. There's a pretty clear breaking point. Then there's a middle segment with some other characters get introduced. And then there is what I'm just going to call sort of the confrontation segment. And then post all that, there's kind of a resolution. The reason I'm making the distinction of breaking them up is because I actually think the opening segment is the weakest. Not that it is bad. It's not. It's buoyed by solid performances and some good camera work, and again, like a very restrained but good use of effects that they could do on the budget that they had. But there are just a few little things about it. With the overriding thing being in the first segment, there are a couple of very obvious ways that this is going to go. And like, yes, I did kind of know. I read a version of the script a while back, but I was able to put most of that out of my mind and just sort of do my best to watch it with a fresh view, because like I didn't know what kind of revisions had happened. And the first segment is a lot of the beats you can predict. Not necessarily the dialogue, the interactions, or the characterization, but there's just certain way that things are shot that kind of give away some of the things that are gonna happen. And then there were a couple of little moments like, oh, but you established, and then that, and like there were tiny things that probably maybe could have done a second, well, I don't want to say second take. That implies there was only one take, but probably could have done a take to clean up, or maybe a call was made like, okay, this is the best performance take, but like there's this little thing that technically shouldn't happen. But I can't really specify without getting into what would admittedly be minor spoilers, but I'm going to move on from that. So the first segment is not bad, but I think as far as the first segment feels like once the thing starts, pretty much, oh, that's what the whole movie's gonna be. It's not. Actually, once you get into the second segment, it starts to incorporate a lot more interesting things. So the first segment is very kind of upfront with the themes and the major through line of this. But once we get into the second segment and we start introducing other characters at this fictional corporation of Advent, and we get a little bit of a sense of the corporate culture and how people operate within it, that starts to bring in more stuff that makes you go, oh, okay. Not sure I would have called that. Whereas the opening, especially as kind of a self-contained piece, is a good execution of something that if you are overly familiar with sci-fi, you probably will call where that's going kind of on the early side. But then once additional characters start being brought in, it just deepens everything going on. It makes it it adds layers of both internal reality and also potentially new layers of meaning. Because the first segment is like there's layers to it, there's metaphor to it and all this, but it's all pretty straightforward. And then the wrinkles that start getting introduced in the second segment make you go, oh, there's more going on here than I thought, which I liked. That was quite good. Now, the only other critique I have is it's only a critique depending on how you view this. So Jessie, and this is not like insider knowledge, although I was already aware of this. Jessie has been very upfront that it is her hope for this to be, in a way, kind of a pilot, for this to be the launching pad of a larger project, whatever shape that might take, be it a ongoing show or what have you. It is her hope to do more within this setting and this world. And I do hope she gets the chance to do that. Not just because maybe she'll have me back in to do more things, but also, like, I know some of the places that she intends to go. But one of the sort of byproducts of that is one of the characters, the character of Anthony, who's, this isn't really a spoiler either, it's pretty clear as soon as he's introduced, is more or less the primary antagonist within the narrative here. Antagonistic force might be a better way to put it. But so if you are viewing this as a fully self-contained movie, which it is, or, you know, short film, which it is, and it is intentioned to function as, if you view it primarily through that lens, he is overdeveloped as a character. He is given a level of attention and depth that doesn't benefit the immediate narrative being told. However, if you view it as a pilot and as a springboard into other things, then I immediately retract that criticism, because it's setting up that there's a lot more going on with this guy, and there's a lot that can be explored in future works. So whether or not that's a note that I would hold to is almost entirely dependent on whether or not Jessie gets to do more stuff with this setting. And again, I hope she does. But if she doesn't, and this ends up being the only thing, then yes, the character of Anthony is overdeveloped relative to his place within the narrative that we are told within this 41 and a half minutes. I haven't talked a ton about the performances. I thought everybody did a very good job. John Delancey could read the phone book, and I would happily listen. I think all the performances were solid. For me, honestly, the biggest standout, and like, everybody was good, nobody was bad, but the one that made me go, oh, I really want to see more of you, was the character of Michelle, played by Jessica Nicole. I like immediately, as soon as she showed up and started talking about, like, I want more of you. Yes, please. And it's not like I wouldn't want to see any of the other characters. I actually absolutely would. But if I'm going to pick an MVP for my viewing experience, I'm going to single out Jessica Nicole, while pointing out everybody else also did a good job. I'll also say that the final bit, like the wrap up, it's presented very well. Given how short this is and what it is trying to do within its runtime, it has a very good feel, energy, joy to its ending, getting up to the credits. And then, yes, there is a post-credit scene. Stick around for that, which I would say is much more blatantly than anything else a direct setup for future stuff. But that'll give a pat. I'm not going to have a criticism for that. Like, I kind of have a half criticism for the character of Anthony, because, like, it's a post-credit scene. You know what? As far as I'm concerned, post-credit scene's a freebie. Do whatever you want with that. And plus, it's kind of cool anyway. Like, just in and of itself, it's kind of cool. But it's also very obviously setting up for future stuff, if that is able to happen. We will see, hopefully. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I mean, I figured I was going to. I like Jessie's idea when she told me about this. I liked the version of the script that I read. I like talking to her about this project in general. Yeah, I am inherently biased. I like what she's doing, but I also like her. So, is this an objective, unbiased review? Hell no! Absolutely not! It was never gonna be! But for whatever it's worth, I did enjoy this. And from my personal opinion, I feel that especially if you're going to consider everything else that you can get on Nebula, because there is a lot of cool stuff on there. I have had a subscription to there that I have turned off and on intermittently. Like I did see Abigail Thorne's The Prince. I talked about that when it happened. So like I had a subscription for a little bit when that was on, but then I let it lapse. Not because I don't like what Nebula does, but because I don't have the time to really sink into that platform. So it wasn't worth the money to me. But like, I am of the opinion that it's worth 1 month subscription, which is not very expensive anyway, to check this out. And then while you're there, check out other stuff too, because there is other good stuff on there. See The Prince if you haven't already. I have my criticisms of that too, again, because I'm me, but that was also quite good. Check those out. Make a double feature out of it. That'll definitely be worth the price of 1 month. It's a shame this isn't sponsored. I'm plugging them a lot, considering I'm not part of that platform and they're not sponsoring. Dang it. See, this is my problem. I'm bad at networking. I should know how to leverage stuff, and I don't, because I don't want to. I want to talk about what I want to talk about and give my honest opinion, and that's what you get. So, Identiteaze. Have you seen it? What'd you think of my particular part in it? Was I your favorite? I know I wasn't. Like I said, I'm a disembodied voice in this thing. But regardless, whatever your thoughts are, I just let this one kind of be ridiculous, because I think the idea of me reviewing this is kind of inherently a little silly, given my proximity to it. But whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills and helps me do this as my living. Even if you can't help me out that way, like, share, subscribe. Those all help me out as well. Don't worry all that much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can just come on back next time you need a break. Why did I make that face? I should go to bed. And now to thank my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfula, Goddess Elida, Oliver B., Melissa Pedersen, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Jean Foray, Ulrich Bogdan, Loki Eris, Linda Walters, Jen, Auntie Kate 808, Becky Sparks, Renabulax the Poodle, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperol, Dave Hall, Quite Bearish, Rosalind Bennett, Toku Bluhuvian, Pal Rabajagal, and Mariji. If you'd like to hear your name in the credits, or even just see them, there are rewards on the Patreon, so maybe check those out.